Basie broke into music. He played in the Moten Brothers of
Francis Carney,
Orchestra in
a
Kansas
natural
City.
at the microphone.
Jazz on the Tuesday.
He ought to be. It runs in the family. His mother was an actress who even performed in the Ziegfeld Follies.
My mother was a showgirl. Basically, she was a showgirl rather than a singer. She strolled around the stage in fancy costumes, fancy dress, looking nice, looking at $1,000,000 big hat, all those things.
Frank J. Carney was more the salt of the earth.
My father was kind of a D's, Do's, and Dem guy from the rough streets of Pittsburgh. My mother was liberal, too, in her political views. She was really left. She was a left-wing person. So that side of my life was settled. I, too, was a liberal. I was a left-wing liberal Democrat by the time I went to St. Catharines in 1931.
Born in the Bronx, Francis was raised in Hollywood, where his mother sought her fame and fortune. Growing up in a company town, it was only natural that one day Hollywood knocked on his door. Francis took the job in the MGM story department. But it wasn't long before America called.
The United States would now be at war with the Axis powers.
Francis was trained as a radio operator on C-47 troop transport planes.
It was thrilling at 3 o'clock in the morning when you go down to the line and get into your craft and you hear the roar, continuous roar overhead going on for hours.
In the final days of World War II, he fought in one of the most decisive battles. In Wesel, Germany.
We heard a low, deep, steady rumble. And you know it's big because the sound is inescapable.
And you're staggered by the number of American troop carriers that are going down. Some of them already going down even before they drop their troopers.
I wouldn't have missed it for anything. I was waiting any second for something big to hit us. But nothing did. I see this gigantic black thing sitting there in front of me in the firth. And I said, Jesus Christ, it's the Queen Mary! You know? And we were all excited. You know, I was excited, everybody else was too. Got on the Queen Mary and that next morning set sail. It was the fastest crossing of the Atlantic by a surface vessel in history. Still is.
Francis was met in New York by an old friend, Beth Warner, with whom he'd struck up a new correspondence during deployment. That very night, Beth took Francis to a night spot where the music was swinging and the laughs flowing.
Well, she's having daiquiris, and I am having a whiskey sour. As you see, I drink mine faster than her.
Beth had worked first for the Signal Corps, breaking down Japanese codes. I had told her I was going to come home for 30 days, and then it would be across to do the great final climactic battle of all time and of all wars over the skies of Japan. And she wrote back and said, "You're worrying about nothing. The Japanese are talking about nothing else but that we have a weapon which will end the war when we use it."
Marriage and children followed the war, along with teaching political science at the University of California, Riverside. Professor Carney's growing political activism quickly captured the attention of a rising political star.
I saw Jack for the first time up close and got the charm.
His work as an author was read widely within political circles, and the distinguished senator from Massachusetts wanted a copy.
I was really thrilled because he wanted to talk to me. You know, he wanted to talk about politics, and I have a lot I can learn from you, and so on. That's flattery, and of course, but I was thrilled about it.
There would be other politicians, other campaigns, and always there would be his first love as educator.
That has been a satisfaction of my life, and I know that my students like me.
Today, he's at home behind the microphone at KUCR on the campus that has been his home for 50 years.
I have led what I thought was a dedicated life, a committed life to an ideal, that is to say, of teaching. Piling up money can be satisfying. If you're really, really competitive, beating other guys at the money game can be ego rewarding. But that's never been it for me.
It's good to love a woman. It is good to love a woman, and don't be ashamed of letting her know you love her. When I say you love a woman, I mean you really want to be with her.
I think a committed life is a better life than one that is lived drifting with the tide.